again. As always, I am Matt from Cleveland Sex Therapy. I'm a licensed clinical therapist and certified sex and relationship therapist. Today's topic is a fun one. I want to talk about the difference between a kink and a fetish. Ooh. Now, a few items to point out before we dive into what makes these two different from one another. First, these terms are often used interchangeably. So my goal of this video is to not shame anyone for using the wrong terminology. I have noticed that in today's society, too many people are using the wrong terminology when it comes to sexual health. So you may be thinking, why the hell is he making this video then? And the answer is pretty simple. Sex education is lacking in this country, and someone has to do it, so why not me? Next point, when I talk about fetishes, I'm going to be doing so from a psychological standpoint. This is important to help you understand why there may be some pathology surrounding them. And lastly, this video will not be focusing on BDSM. BDSM stands for bondage and discipline, domination and submission, sadism, masochism, and sadomasochism. I will do a whole other video explaining BDSM, but just know that it operates under the umbrella of kink. So with some of that housekeeping out of the way, let's get started. Why don't we first start talking about vanilla sex? Because I think that will help you understand kink a little bit better. Vanilla sex, or a traditional style of intimacy, is a form of sex that is used to describe cis-hetero sex that operates in a linear path, usually consisting of hand-holding to kissing, to genital touching, to oral sex, and then eventually penetrative sex. Typically, there's an orgasm by the penis owner and hopefully the vulva owner. Well, there better be if the vulva owner wants to have an orgasm. So if we can understand vanilla sex, then it will be pretty easy for us to transition into understanding kink, because kink is everything that falls outside of what we just talked about with vanilla sex. The biggest thing to remember with kink is that it can be different for each and every person or couple or triad or really anyone in a relationship. For instance, anal sex can be seen as kinky for a cis-hetero couple, but it can be seen as pretty vanilla within the queer community. Make sense? Kinks are way more common than you think. In fact, more than 90% of individuals engage with fantasy when it comes to their sexuality. Kinks tend to involve sensory exploration. This could mean incorporating a blindfold to limit sight, using ice cubes to play with temperature, incorporating body and genital safe foods, sex toys, warming oils, and so on. If you can conceptualize kink as an umbrella term that encompasses everything outside vanilla sex, then you will be heading towards the right path. So why don't I go ahead and name a few common kinks that are out there. Power play, anal, cuckolding, water sports, role playing, phone sex, video sex, furry play, public sex, age play, domination and submission, breath play, adult baby, diaper lover, humiliation. There's so many out there. So now let's look within the kink umbrella and find out a little bit more about what a fetish is. First things first, fetishistic behavior typically comes from the scientific field, as there is a mental health diagnosis for those individuals who identify with having a fetish. In fact, we pathologize a lot of human sexuality, and quite frankly, it's problematic. So let me make one thing clear. Anything that happens between two or more consenting adults is their business and no one else's. After this video, if you realize that you have a fetish, don't panic. There is nothing wrong with you that needs to be fixed. I love working with fetishes. One of those reasons is because our world shames people so much, especially if you have sexual desires outside of the norm, and people can really start to believe that they're defective when in reality, they're not. So what is a fetish? Well, a fetish is defined as a heightened attraction or fascination with a specific object or non-genital body part. In fact, some people view their fetish as being an integral part of their arousal, and without it, they may never become aroused. What that means is if the individual does not engage with that specific fetish of theirs, then their chances of having a successful erotic encounter are limited. Some examples of common fetishes include feet, stockings, wearing the clothing of the opposite gender, leather, boots, hair, underwear. There are a lot out there. So how do fetishes form? It's really quite simple. How do we learn anything in this world? Through conditioning. Fetishes can form from early childhood experiences where there is a sexual reward outcome experienced when engaging with the object, i.e. arousal or an orgasm. So if we break it down, if we have these initial experiences with high arousal, and then there's a sexual reward outcome like an orgasm, we start creating these associations. Also, fetishes tend to be more nuanced and less common when compared to kinks. So let's review. First, these terms have become so interwoven with one another that if you do make a mistake and call a kink a fetish or a fetish a kink, do not panic. You are not alone. I do it from time to time. Everybody does it. Second, kink is an umbrella term used to define anything outside of traditional vanilla sex. It also tends to incorporate a lot of sensory play. And lastly, a fetish is a heightened attraction or fascination to a specific object or non-genital body part that can be required for sexual arousal and enjoyment. So there you have it. You can go to your next dinner party and woo all the guests with your knowledge of the difference between kinks and fetishes. If you do so, please comment below their reactions. What questions do you have about kinks and fetishes? How do you see the difference between them? Please comment below. I would love to know. Until next time.